In the heart of a shadowy castle, where moonlight barely pierced through thick, black clouds, the throne room stood as a haunting reminder of power and fear. The air was cool, filled with an unsettling silence that wrapped around every corner like a shroud. Faded tapestries hung on the stone walls, depicting battles long past and the ancestry of the vampire king himself. Each thread whispered stories of valor and betrayal, of lives lost to ambition and thirst for dominance. If you enjoy this video, please like the video and subscribe for more, and tell me where you are watching from today. I always find it awesome to see where all my viewers are watching from. Let's get back to the video. At the center of this foreboding space loomed the throne, an imposing structure carved from ebony wood, intricately detailed with skull motifs and thorny vines. It was said that those who dared to sit upon it could hear the whispers of their ancestors, urging them to take what was rightfully theirs. The throne radiated an aura of authority and dread that made even the bravest hearts quake with trepidation. The Vampire King, shrouded in mystery, sat atop his throne night after night. His long, flowing cloak cascaded around him like shadows coming to life. The fabric was as dark as the void, embroidered with crimson threads that glinted ominously in the flickering torchlight. His eyes glimmered like molten silver, piercing through the gloom with an intensity that revealed both wisdom and a ferocious hunger for power. Legends surrounded him. Some claimed he was immortal. Others believed he could bend time itself to his will. Rumors flitted through the darkened halls about his many conquests, how he had defeated rival clans and added their strength to his own. Many spoke of his fierceness in battle, a warrior who never backed down. But there were darker tales too, of villagers disappearing when shadows lengthened and whispers that echoed through their dreams at night. Fear gripped those who dared to tread near the castle, and even other vampires respected his domain from a distance. Every full moon brought gatherings of loyal subjects who came to pay homage to their ruler. They would kneel before him in reverence, their lips trembling with awe as they recounted their deeds or offered tributes worthy of his approval. But beneath this facade of loyalty simmered hidden ambitions and envy among some who hungered for his throne. As night fell on yet another evening steeped in darkness, something unusual caught the Vampire King's keen eye. A shift in the air, filled with unease. He sensed it before even seeing it, a presence that didn't belong. Thick mist curled around the feet of his throne like fingers reaching up for acknowledgement. Then came a soft rustle from deep within the shadows beyond his vision. His gaze sharpened as a flicker of movement drew closer. And there it was, a basket resting at the foot of his throne steps. An object so out of place amid everything else draped in gloom and splendor. His heart quickened at what it might signify. Was this an offering? A challenge? As he leaned forward, intrigued yet cautious, what lay before him was not just plain wood or simple weaving. It bore an emblem he recognized all too well. And in that moment, time itself seemed to freeze around him as he fought against swirling thoughts of ancient memories long buried deep within his heart. The castle was cloaked in silence as shadows danced along the walls, echoing the weight of the Vampire King's authority, while he remained fixated on the basket that had appeared at his throne steps. A loyal servant named Alara moved quietly through the dimly lit corridors, unaware of the strange occurrence unfolding in the throne room. Alara was a young woman with a courage that belied her small stature. She had served the king for many years, her devotion unwavering despite the fearful whispers of outsiders. With her auburn hair tied back and a simple cloak wrapped around her shoulders, she navigated the castle with ease, carrying a tray of goblets filled with crimson liquid, a tribute meant for the king's council. As Alara entered the throne room, a chill ran down her spine sending shivers through her body. The air felt heavy, laden with an unseen tension. Her heart raced slightly as she approached, unsure of what might await her. When she finally laid eyes on the throne, her breath caught in her throat. It wasn't just the sight of the Vampire King, cloaked in shadows. It was what lay at his feet that captured her attention. The basket, an unfamiliar presence in this sacred space, beckoned to her like a siren's call. The ornate structure of the basket caught Alara's eye first. It was woven from dark fibers and adorned with intricate patterns she did not recognize. The emblem stamped into its side shimmered under the flickering torchlight, almost alive as it twisted and coiled around raw emotions she could not name. She hesitated, feeling drawn to it, yet instinctively aware that things were amiss. "Your Majesty," she said softly, breaking the silence that loomed over them like an uninvited guest. The Vampire King turned his gaze toward her, his silver eyes boring into hers with an intensity that made her heart flutter. "What is this basket?" He opened his mouth to respond but paused, confusion clouding his features as he focused on the emblem once more. "I do not know," he finally admitted, his voice low and dangerous, like the rumble of distant thunder. "Yet, I feel it holds significance." Alara stepped closer to inspect it more thoroughly and reached out tentatively to touch its surface. A shiver coursed through her fingers as she met its smooth texture. It felt oddly warm against her cool skin. "It must have been left here recently," she whispered as she surveyed the surroundings for clues. "But by whom?" Her mind raced with questions about who would dare approach the castle so boldly and leave an item without fear of consequences. Legends spoke of ancient clans scheming against one another, and she wondered if this basket was connected to such treachery. As Alara knelt beside it, she noticed strange symbols carved into the wood underneath, markings that hinted at a story untold and secrets guarded fiercely. Turning back toward her king, she felt a swirl of unease rise within her stomach. "Shall I retrieve it?" she asked hesitantly, feeling the weight of fate resting on her shoulders at that moment. "No," he replied sharply, but then softened his tone. "Not yet. We must uncover the truth behind this gift, or challenge, first." The atmosphere crackled with mystery, as both servant and king stood before an object that held promises and dangers alike, setting them on a path none could foresee. The castle seemed to breathe around them, as if waiting for what would unfold next in this tale drenched in uncertainty. As the Vampire King and Alara leaned closer to the basket, the emblem on its side shimmered softly in the torchlight. It was an intricate design, unlike anything they had seen before. A swirling pattern that seemed to twist and turn with a life of its own. At the center of the emblem was a fierce creature, part wolf and part serpent, encircled by a vine-like motif that hinted at both beauty and danger. The creature's eyes glinted with ancient wisdom, appearing almost sentient, as if they were watching the two figures before it. Its mouth was slightly open, revealing sharp fangs that hinted at its predatory nature. The vines wrapping around it seemed to pulsate, symbolizing life entwined with death, a reflection of the eternal cycle that governed their world. Alara's eyes widened as she traced the curves of the emblem with her fingers. "I've seen this before in the old texts," she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's tied to the clan of serpents." The Vampire King straightened at her words, his mind racing back through centuries of history. The clan of serpents had once been a powerful faction among the vampires, known for their cunning and fierce loyalty to one another. But they had vanished mysteriously, leaving behind only fragmented tales of treachery and betrayal. He recalled legends that spoke of how they had been hunted down by rival clans, their very existence wiped from memory. "This cannot be," he said slowly, his heart pounding. "This clan has been thought to be extinct for generations. How could their emblem appear here now, in our presence?" His voice held a blend of disbelief and rising concern, as if merely speaking the words might bring forth the truth he dreaded. Alara remained transfixed by the emblem, a flurry of emotions swirling within her. What if this basket is a message from them? Or perhaps a warning, she suggested, her brow furrowing in thought. If they truly are back, what does that mean for us? The Vampire King was silent for a moment, contemplating her words. The implications were staggering. If the clan of serpents had indeed returned, their ambitions could threaten everything he had built over centuries. He had always prided himself on maintaining control and unity among his people. Such a resurgence could unravel that very foundation. He leaned closer again, studying every detail of the emblem more carefully. It wasn't just an object. It felt like a portal to a time when alliances were questioned and friendships forged in blood might just as easily turn to ash. The vines curled around the creature not only adorned it, but also carried an unspoken message, one of resurrection and vengeance. What if this is just a trap? He mused aloud, raising his gaze to Alara's worried expression. A tool meant to sow discord among us. We must tread carefully. As uncertainty loomed heavier than ever in the room, silence enveloped them while they stood in awe of the emblem's power. The castle's shadowy walls seemed to shudder, as if reflecting their fears. The weight of history pressed down on them, echoing with questions that begged for answers. With renewed determination, Alara straightened up. "We should learn more about this clan. Whatever this emblem signifies, knowledge will prepare us for what lies ahead." The Vampire King nodded grimly. They would unravel this mystery together and face whatever challenges awaited outside the castle walls. For now, however, all they could do was ponder what ancient secrets might lie ahead, hidden beneath layers of time and fate entwined like the very vines surrounding the emblem itself. As the flickering torchlight danced across the walls of the throne room, the Vampire King felt a wave of emotions wash over him as he gazed at the emblem on the basket. Shock coursed through his veins, sending a chill down his spine. And for a moment, he was frozen in place, heart pounding like a war drum. The design, so intricate, so alive, was etched deep into his memory, haunting him with echoes of a past he thought long buried. The emblem's swirling patterns reminded him of stories told in hushed tones around flickering fires. The tales of the clan of serpents. He had heard them as a young vampire, listening wide-eyed to elder vampires recounting their cunning strategies and fierce battles. But amidst those stories lay darker truths, secrets shrouded in shadows that had shaped the very fabric of vampire history. They were not just myths. They were woven into his own bloodline. In an instant, vivid images flooded his mind. The faces of those who had been part of that clan. Friends turned enemies. Allies who had once fought by his side but later became victims of betrayal. He remembered the feel of icy steel against flesh, the taste of blood mingling with dust in battlefields where trust had been shattered. The clan of serpents had been powerful and influential, but their downfall had left scars that ran deeper than any wound. "Your Majesty?" Alara's voice broke through his reverie, pulling him back to the present. He glanced at her with confusion swirling in his eyes. "Are you all right?" He took a deep breath to steady himself, feeling as though time itself had warped around this emblem. "Aye," I am, he replied slowly, though uncertainty lingered in his tone. But this emblem is something I never expected to see again. Alara noticed how his demeanor shifted, from regal authority to an almost vulnerable state as memories played across his face like shadows. What do you mean? She asked carefully. It represents a past filled with both loyalty and treachery, he explained, struggling to find clarity amid swirling thoughts. I was once close to those who bore this mark, a connection forged in camaraderie before it was drowned by betrayal. A flicker of fear passed through Alara's gaze as pieces began to fall into place. She realized this was more than just an emblem. It was a key to ancient wounds that could reopen if not handled delicately. Do you think they have returned to challenge your rule? She ventured cautiously. The king shook his head slightly, grappling with conflicting emotions that twisted within him like the vines on the emblem itself. If they are indeed back, he said gravely, it means they have not forgotten what happened in our past. And neither have I. He stepped closer to the basket again, studying every curve and line of the emblem as if deciphering its unspoken message. For years, he had maintained peace within the kingdom through strength and unity. Now all that might be threatened by echoes from days long gone. Whatever their intentions may be, he declared firmly, regaining some composure, we cannot let fear dictate our actions. But even as he spoke those words, doubt gnawed at him like a relentless beast. Could he truly confront ghosts from his past? Alara nodded solemnly, but felt an unmistakable tension hanging thick in the air. A reminder that unraveling this mystery would require more than mere bravery. It would demand confronting shadows that had long haunted them both. The weight of history loomed heavy around them as they prepared for what lay ahead. A path fraught with danger, yet ripe with answers waiting to be unearthed. As the Vampire King stood before the emblem, memories surged through him, pulling him into a vivid flashback that felt both distant and immediate. It was centuries ago in a time when vampires roamed the land openly, their unity formidable and their power unmatched. The clan of serpents thrived then, known for their cunning tactics and exceptional warriors. They had once been allies to his own clan, bound by friendship and loyalty forged through shared battles against common enemies. He remembered the laughter that echoed through the dense forests as they trained together, preparing for the inevitable war against human hunters who threatened their existence. But beneath the camaraderie lay simmering tensions, and whispers of ambition grew louder. There was one among them, Kestrel, a charismatic leader whose charm masked an insatiable thirst for power. The Vampire King had once considered him a brother, sharing victories and deep secrets. They would speak of dreams for the future, a united front against any who dared challenge their reign. Yet, as time passed, Kestrel's hunger for dominance twisted those dreams into nightmares. One fateful night, the atmosphere crackled with anticipation during a grand feast held in honor of their alliance. The halls were filled with merriment, goblets overflowing with rich red wine, and laughter ringing like music through the darkened castle. But amid the celebrations, Kestrel's true intentions began to unfold. Hidden in the shadows were collections of his loyal followers, secretly plotting a coup against the king's family. The turning point came when Kestrel revealed his treachery. With a flick of his wrist, he signaled his followers to rise, stunning the hall into silence. Allegations flew as he declared that the ruling clan had become weak, declaring their right to take power for themselves. Friends turned to enemies in an instant, and chaos erupted as tables were overturned and blood spilled like crimson waterfalls on stone floors. in that swirling maelstrom of betrayal and violence. The Vampire King fought valiantly alongside those still loyal to him. But even as he struck down foes who had once shared laughter and drinks at his table, he felt the sting of betrayal from Kestrel piercing deeper than any blade. His trusted allies fell one by one, transforming the joyous feast into a battlefield drenched in sorrow. Ultimately, Kestrel's faction was defeated, but at a great cost. The clan of serpents was decimated, their powers scattered to the winds. The Vampire King had emerged victorious, but burdened with lingering heartbreak. He had lost not only friends, but also faith and loyalty itself. That night marked a pivotal moment in vampire history. Alliances fractured, and distrust began to spread like disease among clans. As the flashback faded and reality returned to the candlelit throne room, he felt a cold sweat trickle down his back. The past was not merely a memory, but a living force that continued to shape his world. The emblem before him pulsed with reminders of lost trust and haunting regrets, an omen that perhaps those dark days were not yet over. "Do you see now?" he murmured to Alara, though she couldn't hear him over the echoes of the past still ringing in his ears. Their betrayal changed everything. Alara nodded solemnly, understanding that this emblem was not just a relic, but a symbol of unresolved conflicts that could rise again to threaten their kingdom. Determined to prevent history from repeating itself, they both felt the weight of their next steps pressing heavily upon their shoulders. A new chapter was about to unfold, one where they would face the ghosts of yesterday and fight to protect what remained of their fractured world. The atmosphere in the castle buzzed with an unspoken tension as news of the mysterious basket and its emblem began to spread among the vampire leaders throughout the realm. Whispers and rumors fluttered like moths to a flame, igniting curiosity about the significance of the item left at the foot of the Vampire King's throne. The moment had come for those who had long held ambitions of power or alliances to gather, eager to understand what this development might mean for their futures. As dusk fell, shadows lengthened and danced across the stone walls, illuminating faces that bore both intrigue and apprehension. A council meeting was hastily called in a grand hall deep within the castle, a place usually reserved for matters of grave importance. It was adorned with age-old tapestries that told tales of legendary battles fought by vampires against their enemies. Now, however, it seemed more like a stage set for potential warfare among allies turned wary. The Vampire King took his place at the head of a long table carved from dark oak, flanked by Alara and his most trusted advisors. Streams of muted light poured through high windows, illuminating their anxious faces as they awaited the arrival of various clan leaders who would soon fill the room. First to arrive was Lady Vespera, leader of the Nightshade clan. Her presence commanded attention as she entered draped in a gown that seemed woven from shadows themselves. With piercing violet eyes that scrutinized everything before her, she walked with an air that exuded confidence mixed with caution. "What have you uncovered regarding this basket?" she asked, her voice silky yet edged with impatience. Next came Lord Thorn from the Blood Moon clan, broad-shouldered and serious, whose reputation for cunning made many wary around him. He crossed his arms as he approached. "All I know is that seeing an emblem from the clan of serpents, one thought lost to time, is reason enough for us all to be concerned. Have we not learned our lessons well enough?" Soon after, representatives from other clans trickled in. Questions hung thick in the air about how this unexpected turn could impact their fragile alliances, or worse, provoke old rivalries once again. They settled into their seats around the table, casting wary glances at one another. The king listened intently as each leader voiced their thoughts on what might lie ahead. Some suggested bolstering security around their territories, while others proposed reaching out to neighboring clans as a united front against any potential threat re-emerging from history's shadows. Ilara watched as tensions rose and fell like waves crashing against rocky shores. It became clear they were not just discussing strategy, but were caught up in deep-seated fears rooted in memories of betrayal. The stakes were high, not merely about survival, but also about trust's delicate balance that had taken ages to cultivate. With every pause in conversation came uneasy silence, until finally giving way to agreement. Whatever had prompted this basket's appearance could not be taken lightly. The emissaries would venture forth to investigate and gather information on any hint of resurrection tied to Kestrel's legacy or remnants of his followers still lurking within hidden places. Together, we must stand vigilant, declared the Vampire King firmly, breaking through their murmurings like thunder after a stormy night. Let us uncover whether this is indeed a message from long-lost kin or merely a trick intended to unravel all we have fought for. As discussions continued into deeper realms of actionable plans and strategies, blending ambition with caution, Ilara understood. This gathering would shape more than just decisions. It would determine whether they would emerge stronger, united, or irrevocably fractured by echoes from their dark pasts. And beneath it all lingered an unsettling certainty. Whatever lay ahead forced them all into a game they thought they buried with time. One fraught with risks and revelations, waiting within shadows, both familiar and foreboding alike. As the council meeting progressed, an air of uncertainty hung over the room like a thick fog. Discussions regarding security measures and possible alliances filled the vast hall. But amidst those conversations, Ilara's eyes remained fixated on the basket. A tugging curiosity compelled her to investigate further. She leaned closer, her heart racing with anticipation as she slipped a trembling hand inside the woven structure. As her fingers brushed against something hidden beneath the basket's decorations, she felt a piece of parchment tucked away securely. With a swift yet careful motion, she withdrew it, revealing an aged letter that smelled faintly of dust and time. The moment she held it up for all to see, the room fell silent. Every eye turned toward Ilara as though the very air had shifted. "What have you found?" inquired Lady Vespera, her violet eyes narrowing with interest. Ilara unfolded the letter slowly, tracing the delicate curves of the ink with her gaze before reading aloud. The cryptic message written within seemed to pulse with an energy of its own. To those who seek answers in shadows, beware of the serpent's bite. Trust has been twisted beyond recognition. Alliances forgotten will awaken, and flames once quenched shall ignite anew. Only through unity can darkness be faced. The atmosphere froze as each leader absorbed the meaning behind those words. Murmurs erupted among them, some intrigued, while others wore expressions etched with suspicion and unease. "Who could have sent this?" Lord Thorne breathed, his brow furrowed deeply. "It speaks in riddles meant to confuse us." "The timing of this message is no coincidence," suggested the Vampire King, his voice low and deliberate as he weighed each word carefully. "It arrives just as we are confronted with our past threats again. We must consider who among our allies or enemies would benefit from sowing seeds of doubt." Ilara felt a chill run down her spine as her mind whirled with possibilities. "Perhaps it's a warning about Kestrel's followers," she pondered aloud. "If they are indeed plotting something, this letter could be their way of taunting us before they strike." Vespera leaned in closer, fixing her gaze on Ilara's face. "Then we must act quickly and decisively," she urged. "Let us uncover what lies behind these words before we find ourselves facing more than mere shadows." With urgency filling the air once more, each vampire leader began strategizing how to decipher the cryptic message and understand its implications for their quest ahead. They exchanged ideas, proposing alliances that would fortify their defenses while also seeking out clues that might shed light on who had sent such a foreboding note. But amid their planning lay an unshakable sense of dread. Memories of betrayal lingered like ghosts, refusing to fade into oblivion. The letters served not merely as information, but as a reminder that trust was fragile, a notion that had fractured many bonds in their past. "Together we will tread these treacherous waters," declared the Vampire King with renewed resolve. "We shall unravel this mystery step by careful step until we find not only answers, but also peace within ourselves." As discussions continued around strategies and potential leads regarding both old enemies and new threats hinted at in the letter's contents, Alara felt an undeniable weight upon her shoulders. The burden of history laced intricately with their fates now rested on all their heads. Collectively determined, yet filled with uncertainties about who might emerge from the shadows next, they stood poised on the precipice of revelation, aware that whatever came next would forever alter their understanding of loyalty and ambition amid an ever-looming darkness waiting to unveil itself once again. The flicker of torchlight cast dancing shadows on the walls of the throne room, creating shapes that seemed to mock the Vampire King's internal turmoil. As he sat at the head of the table surrounded by his advisors, his mind wrestled with the implications of the letter Alara had discovered. Should they delve deeper into this cryptic warning, or dismiss it as an elaborate trick designed to instill fear and confusion among their ranks? Deep down, he felt a conflicting tide of emotions. An urge to investigate further hit against a wall of caution formed by past betrayals. He recalled painfully how trust had once been shattered by deception, leading to the near destruction of his own clan. The echoes of betrayal from Kestrel lingered in his psyche, urging him to proceed with caution. The emblem on the basket and its connection to the long-lost clan of serpents weighed heavily on him as a reminder that old enemies could still pose significant threats. His thoughts drifted back to the council discussions, where faces reflected worry and uncertainty. Some eagerly suggested proactive measures, while others feared provoking potential adversaries into action. They were caught between their need for safety and their desire to unveil hidden truths curled within shadows. The pressure bore down on him. The decision lay squarely on his shoulders. What if this is just a distraction, he thought, battling with doubt as he considered the possibility that someone might be pulling strings from afar, stirring unrest merely for amusement. However, what if it was indeed a genuine warning? Was it not better to be prepared than caught off guard? Glancing sideways at Alara, who seemed equally lost in thought yet brimming with concern, he grasped her determination and sensed her unwavering loyalty despite frightening uncertainties lying ahead. Her presence reminded him that while past demons gnawed at their sanity, they also had allies willing to face whatever darkness awaited them. He inhaled deeply as clarity surged within him, like light breaking through an oppressive fog. "I cannot let fear dictate our actions." The words rang true in his mind. It was vital for them not only to confront challenges, but also to learn from past mistakes. "Let us not dismiss this message lightly," he stated firmly, raising his voice above murmurs echoing around the table. "While skepticism serves us well during uncertain times, we must also recognize every word might hold significance." The room quickly fell silent. All eyes turned toward him, some filled with respect, but others tinged with uncertainty. "Consider this," he continued thoughtfully. "If there is any grain of truth behind this letter's warning about forgotten alliances awakened and trust twisted beyond recognition, we cannot afford inaction. We will investigate further. A spark ignited among those present. Rapid whispers began to spread about potential strategies moving forward. A way to fortify their defenses, while actively seeking any signs of Kestrel's followers or unfriendly factions lingering somewhere in forgotten corners. Ilara nodded approvingly at his words. She understood that venturing into uncertainty may very well lead them closer to truths shrouded in darkness. It was far too risky waiting in complacency when every moment could unveil dangers lurking just beyond their vision. The time had come for them to shed old fears and reclaim agency over their fate. Not just as individual clans, but united against whatever threats loomed out there, with steely resolve mirrored in shared glances between allies gathered around him. The Vampire King felt alive again with purpose. Understanding now would shape decisions critical for overcoming ancient shadows, clawing hungrily at their present lives. Together, les Curgeaux would stride into the unknown. Not just determined survivors, but warriors reclaiming their destiny against challenges ripe with enigma, while quelling tremors instilled by betrayal buried deep within their collective instincts. The Vampire King's resolve solidified as he stood before his gathered allies. A mix of seasoned warriors and trusted advisors. The atmosphere in the grand hall crackled with determination. The time had come to embark on a quest that would lead them into the heart of uncertainty. He scanned the faces around him, each one reflecting loyalty tempered by the shadows of doubt. "Tonight, we reclaim our destiny," he announced, his voice strong and resonant. "We will uncover the truth behind the emblem left in that basket and confront whatever threats await us." A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, empowering him further. Ilara stood beside him, her expression a mixture of excitement and apprehension. She had always been supportive, but never shied away from voicing her concerns. "Your Majesty, where shall we begin?" she asked, her eyes glimmering with both fear and curiosity. "We must first seek out those with knowledge of the clan of serpents," he replied. "Legends speak of hidden archives that may hold accounts of their history, their secrets. But getting there won't be easy." The king turned to Lady Vespera. "You know well the ancient pathways through the Mistwood, do you not?" Lady Vespera nodded, her violet eyes narrowing thoughtfully. "The depths of Mistwood are treacherous and filled with creatures that thrive in darkness. But it is there that we may find what we seek." "Then we shall go together," Lord Thorn chimed in, crossing his arms confidently. "I have no fear of what lurks within those woods. I'll not let our past haunt us any longer." His bravado sparked a newfound courage among the others. "Gather supplies and weapons," commanded the king decisively, ensuring everyone understood their roles in this mission. "We will set out at first light." He could feel adrenaline rising within him, both from anticipation and dread. But they were united in purpose now. As preparations commenced, Ilara took it upon herself to ensure they had everything they needed for their journey, a task made easier by her familiarity with each warrior's preferences. She moved deftly between tables laden with weapons and provisions, her mind racing through their plans while keeping an eye on her fellow allies. Hours passed as they gathered gear, sharpened daggers for stealthy strikes and sturdy bows for distance attacks. Each ally invested time discussing strategies for facing dangers as old as their clan itself, a sense of camaraderie blossoming amidst shared fears and aspirations. When dusk began to settle over the castle grounds, casting long shadows beneath towering spires, Ilara found herself standing beside the Vampire King once more. "Are you prepared for what lies ahead?" she asked quietly, concern etched on her face. He looked out at the darkening horizon, where clouds loomed heavy with potential storms. Prepared or not, we must confront our past to secure our future, he replied solemnly. With renewed determination radiating from his words, Alara felt a sense of resolve form around them, a bond forged by shared trials that would see them through whatever awaited beyond their castle walls. As dawn broke over the horizon, like an awakening beast ready to charge forth into battle, they assembled at the castle gates. The air was cool against their skin, but alive with anticipation. Their hearts beat rhythmically in unison as they stepped into unknown territories together. With every stride forward into Mistwood's embrace came whispers from beyond, a reminder that this journey was about more than searching for answers. It was an expedition to reclaim trust, lost among shadows long cast away by betrayal. Together, they ventured forth into a world rife with danger, yet brimming with hope. Warriors ready to confront their pasts while striving for a brighter future, woven from threads of loyalty stronger than ever before. As dawn's first light broke over the tumultuous landscape, the group ventured into the dense embrace of Mistwood, a place whispered about in legends and filled with both beauty and danger. Towering trees loomed overhead, their gnarled branches twisting like skeletal fingers snatching at the sky. The very air felt charged with magic, as if unseen forces watched their every step. The Vampire King led the way, his senses heightened. His eyes flickered like embers as they traversed the narrow pathways lined with low-hanging mist. Alara followed closely, her heart pounding in anticipation of what lay ahead. She couldn't shake the feeling that this journey was destined to test them in ways they could scarcely imagine. As they descended deeper into the woods, their first trial emerged. An eerie, haunting melody resonated through the foliage like a long-forgotten lullaby. The sound drew them toward a clearing where ethereal creatures danced in the silvery light. These enchanting beings were pixies, their delicate wings shimmering like diamonds as they flitted about playfully. Yet behind the whimsical facade loomed an ominous undertone. The leads and spells of the pixies were often deceptive, luring unsuspecting travelers into traps of confusion. The Vampire King raised a cautionary hand, recalling tales of adventurers ensnared by their charm. "Stay alert," he advised, locking eyes with Alara. "They may appear harmless, but their magic can lead us astray." With that warning, the party tread carefully. The king summoned inner strength, invoking protective magic to shield them from any enchanting illusions that may take flight around them. The pixies noticed their wariness, but simply giggled mischievously and fluttered higher into the treetops, pressing forward through tangled underbrush. They soon encountered their next challenge. A sprawling expanse of quicksand interspersed with patches of treacherous mud. It shimmered ominously beneath the midday sun, and Alara felt a pang of dread settle in her stomach. "How shall we cross?" one of the warriors asked nervously, eyeing the deceptive terrain that seemed to shift and breathe. "We need to work together," replied Lady Vespera confidently. "I can weave threads of magic to solidify sections for us." With focused determination, she summoned a spell while projecting shimmering energy over the quicksand. As reformed paths appeared before them, each ally stepped cautiously yet steadily across the new footing, trusting in one another's abilities to navigate this perilous patch. Just as they reached solid ground again, a deeper growl echoed through the forest. A primal sound announcing their presence had been registered by something much larger and far more sinister. Shadows slithered along trunks as a massive creature emerged. A serpent-like beast adorned with gleaming scales that reflected shades of emerald. As it coiled and uncoiled above them in its majestic yet intimidating form, its eyes glowed like molten gold, feverishly observing these unexpected intruders. What brings you into my domain? It hissed, voice resonating with ancient authority. Stepping forward boldly, the Vampire King prepared to answer. We seek knowledge regarding the emblem of your ancestors, the clan of serpents. An unsettling pause followed as anticipation hung thick in the air. They held their breaths at this intersection between fate and history. The beast regarded them thoughtfully, its demeanor shifting from hostility to something akin to contemplation. Knowledge comes at a price, it rumbled slowly. Those who seek truth must prove their worth. Alara exchanged glances with her companions, recognizing this unusual opportunity embedded within fearsome circumstances. Steeling herself for whatever challenges lay ahead, she silently vowed never to falter. Together, they could face both trials and tribulations placed before them, with hearts united in resolve against an uncertain future entwined with dangers they could not predict. A sense of purpose drove them forth beneath ominous skies, sheltering secrets yet untouched by time's passage. This encounter marked not just another chapter in their journey, but a testament to courage shared amid supernatural might. Partnership forged from shared quests, advancing toward emerging destinies woven forevermore against shadows past. As the serpent-like creature regarded the Vampire King and his allies, a hush fell over the clearing, thick with anticipation. The beast's molten gaze seemed to peer into their very souls, and for a moment, the air felt tense with unspoken secrets waiting to be unraveled. To prove your worth, it rumbled, you must answer this. What do you truly seek? The Vampire King stepped forward, his heart steadying as he spoke. We seek knowledge of the clan of serpents, what became of them and why their emblem has resurfaced. With a nod that was both regal and foreboding, the creature responded, knowledge comes at a price. You must first face the trials before you. At that, the ground beneath them shifted, revealing 3 stone tablets that surfaced from the earth like ancient relics. Each bore intricate carvings that danced in the dappled light, filtering through the branches overhead. The tablets told tales of betrayal, loyalty, and forgotten alliances. They were clues to the history of the clan of serpents. The first tablet depicted a grand gathering of clans celebrating their unity, their faces alive with joy. But as Alara studied it closely, she noticed a shadow creeping at the edges, a figure in dark cloaks whispering into ears filled with deceit. This is where it all began, she murmured to herself, recognizing that this moment foretold the seeds of discord being sown. Moving to the second tablet, Lady Vespera traced her fingers along its smooth surface. It illustrated a fierce battle, warriors clad in dark armor clashing against their former allies. Flames leapt high in the background, while banners bearing serpentine designs fell from grace. They fought each other, she whispered in horror. This was after the betrayal. The third tablet was different. It bore an empty space surrounded by swirling patterns that symbolized lost friendships and broken bonds. In its center lay an inscription. Only through understanding can we reclaim what is lost. Realization dawned on Alara as she turned back toward the creature before them. What does it mean? How do we reclaim trust? The serpent's voice echoed through the clearing like thunder rolling through mountains. You must confront your own shadows, the very fears that bind you to your past. Only by facing those who betrayed you can you hope to mend what has been broken. A sense of purpose washed over the group as they exchanged glances filled with determination and understanding. The Vampire King nodded slowly, feeling as if pieces of an intricate puzzle were falling into place. Then we must seek out those remnants of the clan of serpents. He declared firmly, "We will confront Kestrel's legacy and gather any who still hold loyalty to their ancestral ties." With that decision made, Alara felt renewed strength surge within her. A courage wrapped around her like armor forged from shared resolve with her allies. The serpent watched intently as they huddled together, planning their next steps toward uncovering hidden truths about their history and potentially gathering allies who remained loyal to a cause long forgotten amidst betrayal. "Before you depart," cautioned the serpent, its voice softer now but still commanding respect. "Remember, trust is more fragile than glass. It can shatter easily but also be reforged into something stronger." With those poignant words echoing in their hearts, they took one last look at the tablets, symbols of both warning and hope, as they prepared to venture onward deeper into Mistwood. The path ahead promised further challenges, yet also revealed glimpses of answers they sought about their past. As they moved under tangled branches and shifting shadows toward unknown adventures awaiting them in nearby realms, their journey transformed into more than just an expedition for knowledge. It became a quest for redemption woven from threads of trust lost but not yet forgotten, an emblematic reflection of their history entwined with aspirations for healing amidst darkness, threatening once more to consume them whole. The group pressed onward through the twisting paths of Mistwood, driven by a renewed sense of purpose and armed with the knowledge they had uncovered. As they ventured deeper, the air thickened with tension, a palpable sign that they were not alone. Whispers of rival factions lingered in the shadows, and a sense of foreboding enveloped them like a dark cloak. Their journey took an unexpected turn when they stumbled upon a clearing near a gnarled tree twisted by time. As they entered, the ground trembled slightly beneath them, and from the underbrush emerged a motley band of vampires, Kestrel's followers. Dressed in dark leather and adorned with serpentine motifs, their eyes glinted with malice and ambition. "Look what we have here," sneered one of the leaders, an imposing figure with a jagged scar across his cheek. The Vampire King himself, foolish enough to tread these woods in search of lost truths. "You seek the clan of serpents? They've long abandoned you." The Vampire King stepped forward, holding his ground against the taunts. "We seek truth, not power. If your intentions are hostile, know that we will not back down." The rival faction erupted into laughter, an unsettling sound that echoed through the clearing like thunder rolling over mountains. "You think you can waltz in here and claim what's ours?" Another rival spat, drawing a dagger that shimmered ominously in the ambient light. "Let's settle this now." Before the king could respond, chaos struck as Kestrel's followers charged forward, weapons drawn. The group had prepared for potential confrontations along their journey, but this ambush ignited their instincts. Alara's heart raced as she quickly assessed the situation, relying on her training to maintain focus amidst the fray. "Form ranks," she shouted to her allies, and they assembled together, ready to counterattack against the encroaching threats. Lady Vespera unleashed a spell that sent waves of shimmering light cascading toward their assailants, temporarily stunning them as it illuminated their features in stark relief against the dark backdrop of Mistwood. The dazzling burst provided a momentary advantage. "Now!" cried the king as he unsheathed his sword, its blade gleaming with resolve. He engaged with the nearest rival leader, their weapons clashing loudly in a battle of wills and determination. The fight raged through the clearing as spells crackled and swords flashed. Each ally fought fiercely beside one another. Alara found herself facing off against a rival who appeared to be an experienced fighter, a whirlwind of strikes and parries that left her breathless, yet invigorated. But just as hope began to swell in her chest, amid their defense. She noticed more figures emerging from deeper within Mistwood. The shadows seemed to grow denser as reinforcements arrived for Kestrel's followers. "We need to retreat," Ilara shouted urgently to the king during a brief lull in combat. "We can't take them all on." "Not yet," he roared back defiantly as he struck down another foe. "We must hold our ground until we uncover what Kestrel truly seeks." They fought bravely against overwhelming odds for what felt like an eternity, until finally sensing an opening amidst the chaos. Their adversaries were becoming disorganized by greed and ambition clouding their judgment. "Push forward," urged Lord Thorn, taking charge of rallying morale among their ranks. "For every victory against these traitors brings us closer to uncovering our past." With one coordinated effort, the Vampire King leading the charge, they surged toward their rivals with newfound energy fueled by desperation and unity. The tide began turning as Kestrel's followers faltered under pressure. The battle culminated in a final clash as rivals fell back into shadows once more, leaving behind only remnants of their ambitions thrown astray. A reminder that darkness could never truly extinguish light combined with determination. Breathing heavily amid remains of combat intensity, the Vampire King surveyed those still standing beside him. Each person defined not just by shared struggles, but now solidified around newfound bonds formed through adversity faced together in wild realms. While this confrontation unveiled dangers ahead, waiting like predators lurking among leaves, swaying ominously underfoot. The group now understood they would face whatever came next. United against challenges echoing across ancient histories, entwined within mist-laden woods, ripe with untold secrets yet to reveal themselves. The aftermath of the battle against Kestrel's followers left the Vampire King and his allies breathless yet resolute. As they regrouped, the tension in the air shifted from immediate danger to something deeper. Unresolved questions about their adversaries and the shadows lurking behind Kestrel's ambitions, while tending to minor wounds and sharing wary glances. Ilara approached the king, her brow furrowed in thought. "We need to understand who truly stands behind these rival factions. There's something more at play here." The king nodded, acknowledgement flickering in his silver eyes. "You're right. We can no longer fight merely against enemies we can see. We must uncover who manipulates this web of deceit." With a shared determination, they decided to journey deeper into Mistwood, where whispers of ancient secrets still echoed among the trees. As they moved cautiously through dense foliage, a fog began to settle, thickening around them like an impending storm. It was here that Lady Vespera halted abruptly, her senses tingling with unease. "Do you feel that?" she whispered, looking around as shadows seemed to shift just beyond their sight. Before they could respond, a figure emerged from the mist, a silhouette cloaked in dark robes that billowed like smoke. The creature stepped forward with an air of confidence. Its presence crackled with familiar energy that sent shivers down the spines of those gathered. "Ah, so the Vampire King returns," drawled the figure, revealing a face half obscured by a hood, but unmistakably belonging to an old ally turned traitor. Marek, once a trusted member of their circle. "What treachery is this?" the king demanded, his voice steady but laced with fury. "You conspired with Kestrel?" Marek chuckled softly, his eyes glinting mischievously beneath the shadow of his hood. "Conspired? Perhaps. Or maybe I simply recognized opportunity when I saw it. Power is much more appealing than loyalty in times like these." Ilara stepped forward defiantly, her heart racing but fueled by anger. "You betrayed us all. You were one of us." "Was I?" Marek replied coolly, his tone dripping with disdain. Loyalty is for fools who believe in ideals rather than their own ambition. The tension escalated as he continued, recounting how he had played both sides during the clan's upheaval, feeding information to Kestrel while presenting himself as a loyal advisor to the Vampire King. His actions had sown discord and chaos in vampire society, a betrayal that had fractured alliances and resulted in countless lives lost. "Your recklessness and foolish trust gave me all I needed," he hissed with a sly smile. "And now I'm here to ensure Kestrel rises to power once more." In that moment, realization dawned on the Vampire King and his allies. Marek had been a catalyst for chaos within their ranks all along. The emblem they sought was not merely a lost relic, but also a means by which Marek intended to manipulate them into further strife. Fueled by anger and betrayal coursing through them like fire, they prepared for confrontation. This was no longer just about seeking knowledge. It was about reclaiming their honor and standing firm against a traitor determined to undermine everything they had fought for. "Enough!" shouted the Vampire King as he drew his sword again, its blade gleaming fiercely in the misty light. "You will pay for your treachery today." Marek smirked, but stepped back slightly as shadows danced around him. Reinforcements began materializing from the fog, no doubt Kestrel's loyal followers ready to aid him in this treasonous endeavor. "Let them come," Marek said with renewed confidence. "The more enemies you defeat today only solidifies my position." As chaos erupted anew around them, mystical energies clashing with steel, the Vampire King knew this was just the beginning of his true battle, not only against Marek, but also against the remnants of betrayal embedded deeply within their society. Determined voices rose above clashing swords as Alara and her allies fought valiantly against old foes transformed by greed and ambition. Their very destinies intertwined, with each strike made amid swirling shadows, offering glimpses into truths hidden beneath layers of time, waiting patiently for resurgence once more. The air crackled with tension as the Vampire King and his allies navigated the forest, finally arriving at the legendary site tied to the emblem of the Clan of Serpents. The ancient clearing was encircled by towering stones covered in intricate carvings, speaking of the clan's storied history and long-lost secrets. The ground felt charged with power, as if the very earth was a witness to centuries of conflict and betrayal. As they stepped into the clearing, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. The weight of expectation hung heavy over them. They could feel eyes watching from the shadows, and uncertainty pulsed in the air like electricity. Then, just as they began to catch their breath, a sudden rustling emerged from the thicket. Kestrel's followers appeared, led by Marek, their treachery evident on their faces as they moved to block any escape routes. "Welcome to your doom," Marek sneered, his voice dripping with malice. "You've come to reclaim what you lost, but you'll find only death." The Vampire King stepped forward, clutching his sword tightly. "We seek truth and justice for the wrongs done to our clan. You cannot hold us back." With that declaration igniting a fire within their hearts, both sides prepared for battle. Tension snapped like a drawn bowstring as the rivals surged forward, swords gleaming in the dim light filtering through the trees. The clash of metal rang out through the clearing, echoing off the ancient stones as allies fought with fierce resolve against Kestrel's malicious faction. The king defended fiercely against two foes, parrying strikes with confidence honed from years of experience. Alara matched him step for step, dodging blows and delivering deft counterattacks alongside her fellow warriors. Lady Vespera wielded magic like a tempest, unleashing bursts of energy that made rival vampires stagger back in shock. The air was thick with swirling mists and flashes of light. Every incantation she cast served to bolster her allies while destabilizing their enemies. As they battled, the fight surged back and forth like a stormy sea. Kestrel's followers were relentless, pushing forward with a single-minded zeal fueled by ambition and betrayal. Yet, the Vampire King's forces held firm, united by their shared purpose and fierce determination to protect their legacy. Midway through the fray, Alara spotted a familiar cloaked figure on the edge of the battlefield. Marek was chanting an incantation meant to summon dark creatures from beyond. "Stop him!" she shouted, urgency coursing through her veins as she rushed toward Marek. Just as she broke free from the melee, Marek completed his spell. Shadows coiled around him like serpents as creatures emerged from the depths of darkness. Nightmarish forms that slithered menacingly towards the combatants. Panic swept through her companions, but Alara pressed forward undeterred. "Marek, you won't succeed," she yelled, summoning her own magic to counteract his dark forces. With a flick of her wrist, beams of light erupted from her hands, illuminating the clearing and pushing back against the encroaching shadows. The creatures hissed in frustration and retreated momentarily into the darkness as Marek glared at Alara with fury. "Foolish girl!" he spat while advancing toward her with renewed ferocity. The Vampire King noticed Marek's distraction and seized the opportunity. "Now!" he commanded his allies, directing them to converge on Marek in one last united effort. With swords raised high and spells charged with energy, they stormed forward like a tidal wave crashing against a rocky shore. As Alara joined them in a final charge against Marek, time seemed to slow, their hearts beat in unison, minds focused on reclaiming their trust and dignity, while dispelling the chaos that had plagued vampire society. In that moment of unity forged through adversity, they surged forward together to confront their greatest traitor yet. Marek would not escape justice this time. The decisive clash unfolded amid despair transformed into hope. A final showdown entwined with echoes of history, waiting for resolution beneath twilight skies filled with possibilities yet untouched. The aftermath of the climactic battle left the ancient clearing in silence, punctuated only by the heavy breathing of the Vampire King and his weary allies. The weight of their recent struggle hung in the air like a miasma. But amidst this fog lay a new clarity. They had faced betrayal not only from Kestrel's followers, but also from within their ranks. And yet they had emerged stronger, united by the shared experience. As they gathered to assess their victory, Alara noticed a change in the king's demeanor. His once furrowed brow now bore signs of contemplation as he stared at the remnants of battle scattered across the forest floor. The fallen enemies, the broken weapons, and the lingering shadows that seemed to hold secrets yet untold. Today was not just a fight for survival. He began slowly, addressing his allies who stood around him. It was an awakening, a reminder that in our quest for power, loyalty must not be taken for granted. Lady Vespera nodded, solemnly. Marek's betrayal was a catalyst for chaos among us. She reflected quietly. But it has also exposed vulnerabilities that we must address moving forward. The Vampire King took a deep breath, realizing that this journey had fundamentally altered his understanding of trust and legacy. Our alliances cannot merely be built on shared enemies. They must be founded on mutual respect and understanding, he continued. We cannot allow past grievances to cloud our vision. If we are to move forward together as one unified force, we must openly confront our fears and insecurities. Alara stepped closer to him, emboldened by his words. The clan of serpents may have been lost to betrayal, but they still hold lessons for us all. We can learn from their mistakes while forging new bonds that reflect our true intentions. With those thoughts in mind, the king turned back toward Mistwood's thick trees looming beyond them. "We will seek out any remaining members of the clan of serpents willing to stand with us," he declared resolutely. "They deserve a chance at redemption just as we seek our own." As they began to walk back through Mistwood, hearts lighter yet still cautious, the group reflected on what had transpired during their journey into darkness. Each obstacle had tested their resolve individually, but forged brighter connections among them collectively. In quieter moments between discussions or tactical plans for re-engaging with rival factions, laughter would occasionally echo softly through the woods, a reminder that despite everything lost along this harrowing path, hope buoyed them toward brighter horizons. While uncertainty would always linger like shadows beneath tall branches, this confrontation birthed newfound strength carried forth with each step forward. A legacy intertwined with both perseverance and promised loyalty among comrades, strengthened through adversity. They emerged from Mistwood as more than just survivors. They left bearing wisdom gained from both battle scars and heartaches endured alongside one another. Recognizing that unity wasn't merely an absence of conflict, but rather an ongoing commitment to each other's fates amidst challenges yet unveiled. As they stepped into sunlight, pouring down through parted clouds overhead, descending upon them like tender embraces after long tribulations, they understood whatever came next would pave deeper pathways leading them ever closer, not just toward recovery, but also genuine growth, reflecting principles guiding each decision made hand in hand against darkness once again. A legacy reinvented upon foundations worthy enough for generations, yet envisioned far beyond present struggles faced today.